James here with Penner Trailer Sales, and we're going to talk trailer batteries. Trailers will have batteries for many reasons. Actually, any trailer with electric brakes will have a battery. That's going to be your breakaway battery. It's going to be located in a small box. It may or may not have a percentage or a charge, state of charge indicator on it to where you can test it. Some do, some don't. And some are connected to the electric circuitry to where it does have a charge wire that maintains it, and some do not. Some just sit there, and over time you may need to replace them if they go dead and what have you. So that's one battery to pay attention to. But if you have a trailer that has a power function like hydraulic jacks or a dump trailer or a hydraulic dovetail trailer, anything with a hydraulic power unit on it, it's the most common need, you will have a trailer battery. And probably most of us, if you've been around dump trailers much, you've been let down by a trailer battery. So I want to talk a little bit about trailer charge systems, how to maintain your battery, and just things to think about to try to avoid those frustrations. First of all, a word on batteries themselves. If you were to voltage test a battery, a fully charged battery should test voltage, show voltage between 13 and 14 volts. 12 volts maybe, but if it's only showing 12 volts, it's probably not fully charged. But what is more important than the volts is actually the cranking amps. The only way to actually measure cranking amps in a battery is to either test it with a load tester or what I call a smart tester that can read, it can sense the cranking amps in that battery. And how many cranking amps are in the battery will tell you, the smart tester will actually tell you the percentage of charge that battery is. Maybe it's 50%, maybe it's 20, maybe it's 80%. So it's a little difficult actually to measure. You need a specific tester to be able to tell the rate of charge or the level of charge on a battery. And it's also possible for a battery to test strong. It's 13 to 14 volts, and however it has a bad cell. So at a first glance it looks like it's fully charged, but maybe it has a bad cell and has no reserve. You use it a couple times and it just goes dead. The way to be able to test that is you need to use a hydrometer and test the acid level or the specific gravity actually of the water in each cell, and be able to determine if your battery is faulty or needs to be warranted or just needs to be replaced and so on. If you will bring it to us as a dealer, we could help you with that. We're also an interstate dealer and can handle a battery warranty for you and so on. But that's a little bit to know about the battery itself. Trailers are often also equipped with a charging system. Some trailers will have a solar panel. Some trailers, this one in particular, has a trickle charger. It has a cord. If the trailer is sitting, you can plug an extension cord into it that will power that trickle charger that will maintain the state of charge in that battery. These trickle chargers, and they're kind of an industry standard. Many dump trailers and trailers that have a power system on them and a battery will have a trickle charger of some kind, and they're oftentimes just referred to as chargers. And so there's a bit of a misconception that if I plug that in, it'll recharge my dead battery. And unfortunately, that's not true. The trickle charger or battery maintainer is essentially just that. It will maintain the current level of charge on your battery. Some will have enough output to slowly, over a couple of days, maybe charge it from 80% and up to 100%. But if you have a low battery, that trickle charger really isn't going to help you much. You need to be able to put an automotive battery charger that can really put 30 or more amps to that battery to charge it up. And even then, you want to keep an automotive battery charger on your battery at least overnight. 24 hours is even better to get a good full charge in that battery. Now, another way that the battery can be charged is most times when you have an onboard battery on your trailer to run a power unit like this, a battery that's going to see a lot of usage, it'll also be wired to the auxiliary circuit on the trailer plug. So a 7-pin plug has one plug that's dedicated to a 12-volt power. It's constant power. Most tow vehicles, that circuit, that pin is fused at 30 amps. So that means if you have that pin energized, you've got a good fuse in that circuit on your tow vehicle. When you plug the trailer into the tow vehicle, that battery is getting 30 amps of charge, or 30 amps of current. So as you're driving on the highway, it's charging, you use it, put the bed back down, drive again, it's recharging that. If the battery, if you cycle it commonly and you wear the battery down, the battery's nearly dead, and it's a dead battery will accept a lot of current, and it will actually draw more current than the 30 amp fuse is rated for, and a dead battery can possibly blow your fuse on your tow vehicle if it gets too low. So we see that sometimes. Somebody will say, hey, I've had this trailer for a year or a couple of months and I've never had any issues. All of a sudden my battery is having a problem, it's not charging. And what has happened is that one time the battery got quite low, they plugged it in their tow vehicle, it blew that fuse, they didn't realize it, and the vehicle's no longer charging the battery and they can't figure out what's going on. So that's a common thing to look for if you're suddenly having a problem with the battery. So you really want to keep your battery charged. If the battery gets low and stays low for a while, that really saps the life out of a battery. It wants to stay charged. You can pull it down and use it, but it needs to be charged back up again. In a vehicle, the alternator, anytime the vehicle's running, the alternator is constantly keeping that battery maintained. It recharges it and maintains it at 100%. In a trailer, the batteries get used, but they don't constantly nearly as much have that charge exposure to be able to maintain their health. If you have the 12 volt from a tow vehicle and it spends a lot of time behind the tow vehicle, that helps a lot. If you're able to put an automotive charger on it and keep it charged up, that helps a lot. But really anything you can do to keep that battery charged, fully charged as much as possible, that will maximize your life and make your battery much more dependable. So hopefully that's helpful. Another thing I do want to point out too is the charge circuit on the trailer itself is usually fused also. I was mentioning a tow vehicle has the auxiliary circuit fused with a 30 amp fuse. The charge wire, the charge circuit on the trailer will also have a fuse. That'll be a much smaller fuse. It's usually located pretty close to the battery. If you see a wire with a fuse holder, that's probably what that is. This one is fused with a 20 amp fuse. So that's another fuse. If your battery isn't getting charged, it's another fuse to check to see if that's blown as well, and perhaps preventing your battery from charging from the tow vehicle. So hopefully that's helpful. Some best practices and some things to look for if you're having issues with your trailer. If you have issues, we'd love to help you out with it if we can as well. Give us a call here at Penner Trailer Sales at 931-361-1122.